Hello. CO, hello. Welcome to Double Feature Movie Club. I'm your host, Cade Thomas, and I'm here joined this week by Diane and Alex. How you both doing?
Hola!
I'm
happy,
doing well.
very.
Alex, this is your first time on the show. How are you feeling?
I feel pretty good.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty happy. I enjoyed the films. I'm excited to talk about them.
Mm-hmm.
I think this is the first thing you and I have ever done anything together, actually. So that's exciting.
I don't know if people know this. They might not, if they're new subscribers, they might not have known Alex or seen Alex. Or if they know me in real life, they might not know that I know Alex at all.
Yes.
Yeah. But no, Alex is here. He's here to promote something. I guess we'll talk that up top, Alex, a little bit. What are you here to promote?
Oh, you mean our podcast that is releasing on Wednesday, April 6th?
Yes.
3 days from now.
3 days. Well, it might be closer for some people because if they're listening as a podcast, it comes out the following day on Monday. Or if they're watching this years from now, it's already been out for a few times, or for a long time.
Yeah, it's been out a few times.
Yeah.
Cade, I think my name is a little off here. It's not centered. I don't know if we can move it over.
We cannot. I'm sorry to tell you that.
All right.
It's attached. It's attached to where you're located on the screen. It's not important for people to know. Just that it can't, because it would bother me as well. It's also why your name's bigger, just to let everyone in on the back, because your picture zoomed in a bit. Anyways, what are you here to promote, Alex?
Our
podcast. We have a podcast called Cade and Friends. Alex is on it quite a bit, but not all the time, which is why his name's not on the title of the thing. But he's on there quite a bit, and he's on the first episode, which, like we said, is premiering this Wednesday, and it should be fun. It's a lot less, like this is a movie review thing where we talk about movies. There's not as much we talk about movies in our first episode too, in a different way, on a segment of ours called Movie Smoothie. But we have fun segments and different things that should be fun. But yeah,
you can really see the involvement of the evolving of our podcast from episode 1 to like episode 4, and then by episode like 6 we really find our footing.
So really step through there. Yeah, it's episode 1. It's us finding the voice in a little bit, and it like everything, it evolves and it finally finds its footing. So you can watch it.
Episode 4 we find our visuals.
I think episode 3 might be our first visual.
It might be episode 3. It is episode 3.
Yeah.
But episode 4 we find our background.
No, episode 5 we find our background.
Episode 5 we find our background.
Okay, can I ask a question?
Yeah.
Do you have to watch these sequentially, or can you skip around?
Well,
if I'm interested in your background, can I?
Yeah. So there's nothing there's nothing related. I mean, there might be callbacks and stuff. We love a good callback, but there's nothing. I don't think anything that's there's not a plot or something that you have to keep.
There is a lore, but you don't need to know the entirety of the lore to skip around. It's like like Star Wars. If you just you just watch the Prime
what we're making here is Star Wars, Diane. That's what our podcast is. No, it's just conversation. So most of the time you can just skip around, but So I mean, if something finds interesting, particularly if you like one of our friends or something more than other, you can just watch that isolated. If you don't care about Alex and you just want to hear Hannah and I talk, you can watch that episode, which is the second episode.
Especially if you get any deep dark secrets out of somebody, that's what I'm really in for.
Mm-hmm. Well, you're in for a treat, Diane. Let me just tell you that.
For scandal. That's what we're here for.
There's a couple of episodes where we're gonna have to go back and listen to them again and be like, what are we putting in here?
So if you, so you'll definitely hear some some things, and it's fun. It's fun, and it's tailored to each people. And obviously, Diane's going to be on it eventually. We're going to have to get her on there, and so that's the plan. So there's still, I mean, we've banked a lot of them because the idea was supposed to put this out in 2020, but then everything happened there, and so some of these were filmed way back then and then scattered, and then we have a few of them that we filmed recently, and so the idea is to now it's going to be live, and it's from after the first 4 essentially. There's these first 4 of our pandemic episodes, but then the rest of them are more live and everything. So yeah, it's pretty fun, and it was constantly evolving and everything. And I think we hit our stride, and it's really fun. It's a really fun show. And Alex is here to talk about that a little bit, but also talk about our movies. But before we get started, Diane was telling me that she watched one of these movies that I also watched. On top of these movies, we also both watched The Bubble on Netflix, which is a Netflix comedy movie of Judd Apatow, and it's got a great cast. Diane, what'd you think about that movie?
Oh my God, I laughed so hard. I had to literally stop it a couple of times, go back, because I was laughing across lines.
Yeah.
David Duchovny.
Yes, thank you. David Duchovny's the star of that. David Duchovny.
Everything.
And I'm a huge David Duchovny fan. I love him because I'm an X-Files fan, and I'm just so glad that they cast him in this, and that he's being put and shown like he's incredibly funny, and he's always been incredibly funny. But he's just put in different roles that like sometimes that shines, sometimes it doesn't. And this is one that's like, because he's been in a few things that's like he can just knock it out of the park with comedy, and this is one of them. He is like lapping circles around comedic actors in this movie, like,
exactly,
and it's impressive. Like he's doing bits with like Keegan-Michael Key in like hitting more punchlines than he is. It's pretty impressive.
That's the only thing I thought maybe, Keenan probably wasn't used as much as he could have been.
Yes.
But at the same time, casting him as the macho action guy was hilarious.
It's hilarious because like all these are sort of people, and like the fact that he has like this cold and then he has like this, he's trying to like stay relevant, and he's like, because like you also have these TikTok people, and it's the idea like he's like I'm still relevant, and I'm like writing these books, and like he's having an existential crisis. Every character's having some sort of existential crisis during this whole thing, and that's very clear defined. Pedro Pascal's also in it. I think he has some good things.
I was surprised. He was hilarious.
Yes.
He plays the drug addict actor.
Mm-hmm. Well, he's the serious. He's like trying to be. Yeah. He's like the auteur sort of actor who's brought on. Yeah.
Benedict Cumberbatch is in it.
No, Benedict Cumberbatch is not. He's there's this little scene where they do this face swap thing. He's not in it, no, but they do use his face for a pretty hilarious bit in the thing.
The whole thing.
Stop being Benedict Cumberbatch. Still one of my
It was so good. The Iris Apatow, Judd's daughter, right?
One of Judd's daughters.
And
Leslie Mann.
And Leslie Mann, their daughter is in this, and she is hilarious. She's the TikTok star, right? Mm-hmm. And she's absolutely hilarious. Yeah. She got both of her parents' comedy genes for sure.
And what's interesting,
I love the fight that she has with the mole. Let me put it that way.
Oh yes, my favorite scene. It comes very late in the movie, so maybe it's a slight spoiler, but it's oh my God. That one was, I didn't laugh as much until that moment, and that's the moment that I was like, I have to stop. And it's the Fred Armisen David Duchovny fight. Right. That is, oh my God, the most hilarious scene I've seen in a very, very long time. And it's a callback, and it's hilarious. It is absolutely one of the funniest scenes ever. And So Fred Armisen's also in it, but it's got a lot of, and he's great in it. The first laugh it got me was just the cut to, I didn't know Fred Armisen was in this movie, and the first reveal that like, and here's our director, and it's just Fred Armisen, it's just his face, and it's just, he just knows how to hit some like comedy beats, and that was the first one that I was like, okay.
With the Prince Valiant wig on, that was the best, just the best.
Yeah.
Every character in this movie played to a stereotype.
Yes.
And it was absolutely brilliant in that sense.
I'm surprised to hear you guys talk so well about it. I've not seen it, but it doesn't have great ratings online.
I can imagine it's not. I mean, like, it's not a great. I was going to say it's not a great movie by any means. It's not like and it's and even so, like some humor's hit and miss, and it's like, but like I don't know, for that type of movie. It's just like it's got to have a few good lines, and if the whole movie was just a lead up to the David Duchovny Fred Armisen fight, then it was well worth those hour and a half that it got there to it, because that was perfect. that was so if it's just an hour and a half worth of just getting to that, then it was that's so worth it.
Welcome to double feature movie club, where we talk about 2 movies, but also 3.
Also 3. Triple
That's
feature
right.
movie.
That was a good one to talk about them.
Yes.
Kate McKinnon is in it. She plays a
Kate McKinnon's funny in this too. Yeah.
She is so hilarious. I mean, now the whole thing, I thought it was a great movie, but
the scene with Beck. So Beck is in it. So there's a lot of cameos. The scene where they're like. They obviously pre-recorded this part, and here's Beck. And that's great. There's I don't know what was spoiled. There's a lot of different cameos in it, and they figure out ways to bring people in it, and there's some funny bits. With
bottom line, it's about a group of actors and an entire crew that has been sequestered during the pandemic to create the
Cliff B. Spies
movie in the series of dinosaur movies. Yeah. Let's see, which could they be playing?
Yes, they use the exact same font as the one. Yeah. And so it's the 6th one in the series, and they've been brought there. It's the first film that this studio's doing during the pandemic. They make a reference. It's only us and Tom Cruise that is making a movie right now, and we're saving. They're like being told that the whole studio rides on this movie, and so there's this intense amount of pressure.
And it has every pandemic joke you've heard in it. I mean, they just put it all in there, which I just love that. I love all the tests. They keep doing tests.
And they keep shutting down. It keeps getting like opened and shut back down and opened and shut. And
it shows these actors, the people being sequestered in their rooms and for 2 weeks, and quarantined. And oh my God, it is hilarious. Hilarious. But anyway, watch it. And
Karen Gillan from our last week's movie.
She was so much better in this movie than the last one. Let me tell you, I didn't need 2 drinks in this one.
So she's the star, technically. She gets top billing. She's the point of view character in the beginning, and then she kind of like fades off, and she comes back in a few different times. But she's, I guess, supposed to be the star. Everybody else is billed like alphabetically. But she's the top billed actor, which is I found pretty interesting. Because I mean, I wouldn't say... She certainly starts off as the point of view character, but by the end of it, it's just an ensemble movie. So it's kind of was odd to make her. I don't know. I guess if there was a star, she was the star, but I wouldn't say anybody was really the star. That interesting.
I'm not going to say anything because it might give something away.
Yeah. So, okay. Are we ready to jump in here?
Well, I don't know the bubbles, so I have no comments.
I have a thing that you can comment on, Alex. So, this is not about a movie, but we'll just talk up top about this. So I saw at McDonald's has a they have where you can order Szechuan sauce now, but you have to do it on the app. And I did that this weekend. Because I'm like, I got to try the Szechuan sauce,
I didn't even know I mean, seriously, you have that McDonald's app?
Oh, I had to download the app.
Oh, okay.
I had to download the app specifically for the Szechuan sauce. And so I went and tried it, and I've never done the app. So the app, you have to order, and you had to I assume it was like everything, you order ahead and then you get there and then you tell them that you're there. It's like curbside of a lot of these things. But no, you order it and then you had to tell them you had to show up. So then you park and then they start making the order. So they don't make the order until you're physically there and parked. So just a future thing for people to know that. So I had to go there, park, and then they make the order. And then they bring it out anyways. But I also ordered honey mustard just in case I did not like the Szechuan sauce, because I do love honey mustard. And got to say, all the hype around it, from a certain fan base, it was not good. I'm just gonna. It was clearly. It was bad. It was not even. It was bad. So
wow,
disappointing.
I've never tried the Szechuan sauce.
Well, I guess you can't order it. They were like saying you can't order it. You have to buy it on the app. So that's their way of getting people to use their app, I guess.
I never understood the McRib either. I mean, I worked with people who were like, "The McRib is coming back. Yay, let's all go to McDonald's." And it's like, are you kidding me? Okay.
The McRib, it tastes good, but I would never be like, oh my God, the McRib is coming back.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think so. I can get the hype around the Shamrock Shake. I like the Shamrock Shake a lot. That's the one seasonal thing that I'm like, okay.
I do like a good seasonal drinks or shakes or stuff. Like Dairy Queen. I live near a Dairy Queen, and they do their little seasonal Dairy Queen shake things. I don't know if they have a special name for it. Blizzard.
Mm-hmm.
I'm excited for the summer because last summer they had some delicious options.
I'll tell you the best one I had of those, and it was one of those seasonal ones. It was a Chips Ahoy one, and it was amazing. And it only was a seasonal one.
Wow.
That makes sense. Chips Ahoy with milk product does taste very good.
Yeah.
Dairy Queen has the best soft serve ice cream ever. Their dip cones I can't get past the dip cone.
The wax. Kind of waxy.
That waxy chocolate with that, soft serve. Yeah.
So I like the butterscotch, which wasn't around here. I mean, it was around here, and then it was gone for a while, and you can only find it in some market. And then I think it's back around here too. So now, but the butterscotch dip cones, that's where it's at.
I've never had one. Sounds good though.
I think they have a cherry one. Yeah, they got them. Yeah,
I like cherry. I am upset though. They did raise the prices at my local Dairy Queen, and I am very sad about that.
Don't cry.
But I'll try not to.
Great. So we're actually going to get into our thing now, of what we're here to talk about, which is these movies. We watched 2 sci-fi movies, indie sci-fi, real low budget sci-fi movies that it wasn't planned. These movies were picked at random, so but it happened to be 2 sci-fi movies. Funny how that sometimes happens. And there was Coherence and The Endless. Both of them are available for free on Tubi if you haven't watched them. They have ads, but it's pretty cool. Tubi's pretty cool, I think. We've used it for a few different times. But yeah, so yeah, we'll jump in. Our first one's Coherence. Diane will be walking us through the plot after our little musical interlude, and then we'll talk about it. And then afterwards, Alex will mention Endless. But we'll talk about Coherence first. So here we go. Our feature presentation.
Hey guys. Okay, Coherence. Let's talk about it. First off, the basic plot of this movie is there are 8 friends who meet for a dinner party that experience a troubling chain of events as a result of a comet passing overhead. I wonder where they got this idea. Either way. The movie itself starts off with the actual dinner party. It's all based in one house. Don't want to give too much away. And this is a first-time director. I guess, writer, James Ward Bykrit. That's how you say his name, not sure. And there was no script for this. He just cast these 8 friends or these 8 people that he thought would do well in this movie, and you seriously believe that they are friends. And he gave them note cards, I guess, every day of what 3 things they needed to get across. I think he filmed the whole thing in 5 days in his living room. And it's a pretty interesting movie. I was impressed. What do you think, Cade?
Yeah, I really, really like this movie a lot. I don't know what everyone else, because once again, for our audience, we don't discuss this beforehand, so we don't know what other people think about it. But I really, really enjoyed this movie a lot. I was very pleasantly surprised. I've heard good things about it, so it wasn't like, people had said bad things about it, but I did. I was really impressed by the twists and the turns, and when and I enjoyed the style of it. I know that it's something that some people might not be everyone's cup of tea, the style of it. But it's certainly, I think more cinema should be this way, where it puts it in the hands of actors, good actors that, and that they have, as long as they have a hold of the, it's a vision from it. This is a perfect balance of a vision of a director with actors that are 100% capable and go for it, and there's a trust there that some movies. There's not that, and you can tell that they feel like some directors feel like they have to hold on to it really tightly and don't let the actors sort of have some sort of range and do their part. And then you have some that's like the director's just not really doing anything and let the actors just do whatever they want. And since this does rely a lot on improv, this could have went wrong in so many different ways, and it is really leaned on with the actors. They do a great job, and then the director, I imagine reining them in, you had to have that push and pull, and I think it really worked in this. But
that when I read about it, he looked for actors who were really good at improv.
Yes.
Improv actors. They are so believable in this movie as being friends. I mean, and
they don't know each other. That was the big, like when I was reading, like they were all just professional actors that were like improv actors, and they didn't know each other. And it's kind of shocking because they do so well together that you imagine that they.
That's actually that's one of the things that I wrote down as like one of the things I really enjoyed was that they felt like friends. It was very much a group of people that they feel like friends because they're, someone will be talking about like how the seriousness of the comment, and then someone will make a joke. And just like, a friend group would, anytime I've hung out with friends, if someone's talking about something, you just whenever you add in a little snippet or something of just like, a little thing. And then, there's the outcast friends. There's the 8th person, who is just like, which that happens sometimes. And it felt very believable and was very, I think relatable for just like, wow, this is kind of a relatable, thing for anyone who's gone into like friend outings or friend dinners and stuff.
Yeah, They had the chemistry of long-term friendships. They really were able to pull that off, as well as the people who were couples were able to pull off the chemistry of long-time married couples or, couples that are dealing with certain issues and things like that. I found that fascinating, and that I think is one of the things that I love the most about it.
Yeah. And this is really where I'm pointing at of like some of these other things that we talk about of like this is a no budget movie. It's kind of similar to what we do a lot with what we do and what a few like people on the internet do, but this should be sort of like the gold standard for these no budget movies. Like this is where you can use essentially there's no special effects. The only thing that I could see is like the comet. I don't know quite how they did that, but it's only just like
the dark zone as well, I think.
Well, it's just darkness, right? They're just in the middle of some sort of exterior darkness. I didn't think that there was anything that was visually that. But I mean, the comet was the only thing. But even then, it's like maybe 3 shots of just like a comet in the sky. But it's still, I would imagine,
which he might have saved from a video of taking a shot of a comet.
Yes, I think that some of the trail, like it was. This is not at all the most important part of the movie, but there are some shots of a comet that I am interested on how that was sort of thing. And that if there is, I mean, like, yes, it could be some sort of existing footage of a comet, but I imagine it's doctored in some sort of way. But if that's
it shows it's like it's breaking up.
Yes, that's the one that I was like, that's got to be some sort of visual thing, but it doesn't look fake. But like, I guess if your film only has 3 special effects shots that a total last 20 seconds, you don't have to really, that's not probably too much of a budget to get that to be done. But it's very naturalistic. Like, that was the whole thing, is like he didn't want like a crew, so it's like it's just him, I imagine, and like the sound's really good, so there's got to be some sort of sound working. But it's handheld, which one of my notes, I love handheld work. I some people don't. There's some zooms. I really like that. I like that it's kind of messy at times, like, things are out of focus, and it's not intentional, I guess, but I like sort of a roughness of some, like, of a film like this. I think it adds to the aesthetic of it. It's not stylized in a way of like, there's not lighting. It's all naturalistic lighting, and it's just like, here's just a camera with people, and that's great. I really like that.
Immediately at the very beginning when they walk into the kitchen that you're in a kitchen. You're not on a soundstage. This is someone's home.
Yes.
And it has that feeling of being inside. Whereas, yes. And a lot of these, the inside shots are really on a soundstage, so there's no feeling of being inside.
Yeah.
So that's what, and I found that the home was lived in. It wasn't like a production value home that you normally see, yes. in movies and stuff. It's more like my house. Which,
yes.
let's face it.
It's like just a suburban home. Like it yeah. wasn't like how you would see in a different low, I mean, that's in a lot of low and no budget movies, is because that's what most people have, is some sort of home, some sort of suburban home. And so you see those a lot, but like it didn't, I don't know. It didn't feel like, it didn't feel as low quality. I didn't feel like, but and when it was, it was intentional, or like it added to the vibe in a way that I thought, and I think it was because of how the actors didn't feel like they were acting. They were it was a very naturalistic sort of thing. And so of course they would be in this real world. And of course it almost has like a documentary quality to it. That was really, it's like you're in this room with them, with real people. But there's the sci-fi aspect happening to it. That was, I found that to be very, very fascinating. I heavily recommend people watching it. One of mine is the sort of the conversations, like the sort of there's overlapping dialogue. It's kind of like a Robert Altman style where people are talking over each other, and there's a conversation happening over here, but like you're following this one, but like I was immediately like, yes, I love that in films.
Could you say that again?
Oop, that's my Apple Watch. But no, yeah,
it's like Alex said at the beginning. It's like, this is like how real friends talk. Mm-hmm. You have all these conversations going on. I mean, even when we play trivia, there's like 7 or 8 of us there. We have all these different conversations going on, and then we come back together and we do this one thing, and then we take off on our conversations again. And that is true, and how, friendships work.
And you don't see that very often in films. Like I mean, I call back to like the party's just beginning, which we reviewed last week, and like just a lot of different movies where like people are scared to put, because it's incredibly difficult to naturally write a group scene, and so people will find a way to get just 2 characters together. And like that was one, there was a scene where there was 3 characters, and we're like, and get that third person out as quick as possible so we can just have 2 people talking. And it's like I get that from a certain perspective. Ribbon's a lot of 2 people conversations. It's easy, but I'll tell you, it's so much fun to get like 3 people in there. It adds an extra layer. I mean, it's harder to write because people are pulling conversations in different directions. And so
the fact that this wasn't written,
yes,
made that easier to do in reality.
I think he had like a treatment, I think I read that it was a 12-page treatment of here's what's going to happen and here's the broad strokes. It's kind of what Curb Your Enthusiasm has that, where he does.
Yeah. I assume like, okay, well, I need you to talk about like the comment, and I need you to mention like this thing that happened. I don't like maybe the Finland part, you know, I'm sure that, you know, those parts were like, okay, well, this is based on this comet that came by in the 1920s. So just make sure you talk about this 1920s comet in Finland.
Yeah. You know that they're all
in Russia. Yeah.
Yeah. And then there was, and so like everyone was like, you have this sort of part, you have to bring out that your phone was cracked, you know, like each of them have these sort of things. You have to, you know, essentially you have to decide to leave the room, you know, like the action beats are probably spelled out. Like that's probably what the treatment is like this happens, this happens, this happens. And then the sort of characters are in what they're sort of, and I imagine their motivations are probably spelled out as well. But, yeah, the lines aren't.
The one piece of advice, I don't know when we're going to get into spoilers, but one piece of advice I'd have for anybody who wants to watch this movie is pay attention to what these characters' names are. Because they're going to talk about each other, too. So you need to know every character's name in this one. A lot of times you don't have to know that. But
that was, I had that written down. Whenever
you have to know the names.
So, yeah, I have a note on here. Am I supposed to keep track of everyone's names? Was one of my notes that I wrote down. Because I was like, oh, boy, this is getting complicated. Anyone who can name them all? Who can name some?
I couldn't name
I have them right here
like,
in front of me, but yeah.
I couldn't. I'm so horrible at people's names and faces and everything. Like, it's just like, oh, God. I couldn't, and that was the biggest hurdle of the movie for me, was like having to remember the names and their relationships, and like what and who's together and who had a former relationship and who's upset that the other person's there, and like that was
everyone was very everyone is very distinct in like their personalities and stuff, but I agree, like there was one point where someone's taking a nap and I was like, who's
not in this room? I have a note about that. How could someone take a nap during this?
So I was actually thinking,
yes, drugs.
Yes, you're right. That was then revealed. But like, yes, that was my note though. Was like, wait. So she's taking a nap during it. But yes, it's revealed that of course she did.
My entire thought was like, that's what I would suggest. I was like, why don't they just all say, this is weird stuff going on, let's just all go to sleep.
Would you be able to go to sleep through that?
If the internet is out, the phones are out, weird stuff is going on, I would be like, you know what, guys? Let's just one of us stay up. Everyone else would go to sleep. Let's just like sleep it until the morning. I mean, the one guy said that his brother was like, my brother said to stay inside. So why would you go outside?
My brother said to stay inside, so I'm gonna go outside. It's like the literal line of the. I mean, it was like. I mean, he was. I guess his brother said to try to contact him, but his brother should have known that everything would have been knocked out, right? I don't know why that was.
No, not necessarily. We had comments go over in real life,
but his brother has obviously this theory of decoherence, right?
I see. Yeah.
So if he has this whacked out idea that these people that the Schrodinger's cat theory, if he has that, you would imagine that he would think that the technology is going to go out, but maybe not.
If Mike and Lee had just had a landline,
you're right.
Right. Lesson learned: don't get rid of your landline.
I was going to say, like, if a scientist tells me to stay indoors, I feel like I would want to stay indoors. But thinking about the last 2 years, it makes sense that they didn't stay indoors because.
Well, is it okay? Here's the thing. So, Alex, isn't your brother an engineer? Right? He does engineer stuff. So if he had some sort of engineer warning to you of some sort, would you take that in?
I mean, it depends on what it is. If it's like if he's like, hey, the dam.
What if it's a whacked out conspiracy theory that he had?
If he had a whacked out conspiracy theory, but it was kind of coming true, I would think maybe this is something I should listen. Like, no one's phones is working. He said to stay indoors if weird stuff starts happening. Weird stuff is happening. I'm going to stay inside.
Yeah, he seemed it. I that was one of my other complaints about the movie was like the stuff that that happened off screen, like the fact that his brother is just sort of talked about is kind of like, okay, I don't know. Like, I mean, make one of the people an engineer or something. I understand that you have to have the book. Like, it seems like it's made backward. It's what some things are like. We have to have a book that has these things, and it's like, how do we do that? And why would they have it? And it's like, okay, well then one of them has to have a brother that has a.
What confused me is that it's.
And the book had to be very specifically. The book had all the information that they needed.
Yeah, that was very much a Deus Ex Machina.
And they just open it. I guess this is a giant book, and they're just like, and here's a single paragraph in this book.
What? One of the descriptions of the cast was like, these are ill-informed NPR types. I love that.
Yeah.
I thought that's so great. Mm-hmm. It's so funny because this was made before the pandemic, right? Yeah. So after the pandemic, you might have had a completely different movie.
Yeah, because I think like in today's world, you had to have one of them be like, this is this conspiracy theory that I've read about this comet. Like you would in every group you'd have someone who would know the conspiracy theory about some world event that was happening, at least know about it. Well, I guess she knew. She was like, I've read about the comet, or I've heard, and that rang true. That like there were these, that there was some world event, and like one person's like, yeah, and I read something about this, and some people were like, oh yeah, and like, oh, I guess I heard about that. Like that was, and like that rang true a lot.
What got me though, or what kind of confused me though, is that like it's all these different like alternative realities and stuff, but. Some of them were very much in the future, and some were in the past.
Okay, and we're getting into spoilers. So yeah, if you haven't, spoiler alert, guys. Yes, that's it's fine. I recommend it, but yes, we're going to go ahead and get into spoilers. I think it still works if you haven't. If the whole thing's spoiled for you, I think it's one of those movies. I think that should still work. Mm-hmm. But yes, that's fine. So it's sort of
might be better knowing what's really happening because it took me a while to figure out that because I should have read about this ahead of time.
I assumed when it was starting to be revealed that there was time travel at play. That was my first sort of thought. Is that because like one of them, because they were sort of ahead of them. I'm like, oh, so they're ahead of them in some sort of way. And I think that they're playing with these sort of tropes. That's sort of the idea that you first think is that. I think with the letter and with some of these stuff and everything, that
I went immediately to multiverse because I've been trained by Disney.
Well, so you were a little bit more on the right track there.
Well, when those two guys come back and his head's bleeding, he's different.
Yes.
If you really pay attention, he's different than he was before he left, as far as his personality goes and all that stuff. So, and how he interacted with people was different. Yeah. So I was like, I wonder if this is a multiverse deal. And then, as it turned out, it was. Yeah. And I thought, I'm well trained by Disney.
So the first thing that was like. I had multiple things. What got me hooked in the beginning was I love handheld. I have handheld exclamation points. That got me hooked to begin with, and then with like the dialogue that was I'm like, okay, this is the type of movie I love what they're doing here. But then the first sort of reveal that was like, okay, now that was interesting was when they opened the box and it's their photos on the inside I guess we maybe need to explain slightly. The two walk off to go. They see a house. All the electricity goes out of this place. They go. They see that there's one house far away that has the lights on. Two of them leave. Decide we're going to go see there and see if they have internet or a phone or something that we can call their brother to see what one of them's brother to see what his advice
Skype. They're going to use the Skype.
They're going to use the Skype. This is 2013. They're going to use the Skype.
They're going to use the Skype.
And I just love how they're sitting there at the beginning. They're like, what was our lives like before our phones? And this is 2013, which, I mean, It had been, the smartphones have been around for a bit, but not. I guess it was immediate change because it. I mean, like what? I mean, it had only been like smartphones have only been around what, like 5 years by that point.
Would have been 5 years, I think, 5-ish.
Yeah. So, anyways, they go to the house, and then but we stick with the people inside the house. And then they come back, and one of them brings back a box and other things. And one's bleeding, and they open up the box, and it's photos of them, and they have numbers on the back. And immediately, like that was creepy, a creepy, startling revelation. That I was like, it makes you sort of. I like these movies that have these puzzle pieces that you're trying to figure out, and I like a movie that is sort of like it all there's some serious thought that's put into, and from the get-go that you're in good hands, that like they're so specific that these things are they have some internal logic. Whether or not I understand 100% of it, I'm pretty confident that this movie has some internal logic because of the stuff that I did understand was on solid ground. So I like that a lot. What's one of your three, Diane, or one of your top things?
Well, I thought as the dinner party started, and then then it starts to unravel the plot. Let me put it that way. I thought it was creepy, and intriguing, and surprising. I was never. I mean, you have to really pay attention to this movie. Not just should you know the characters' names, but you need to pay attention to what they're doing and how it's happening to them. And I thought that was just fascinating. I did. It's not a movie you can play your video game, Wordle or anything like that while you're watching it. You really need to pay attention to it.
And I watched this incredibly late at night, and I was like, oh, am I too tired to watch this? But it kept me so intrigued that I was like on the edge of my seat. I'm like, okay, never mind. This has got me really invested in this, and I was surprised by.
That's one of the things I have written down. It did not feel like it was slow. It was constantly, almost constantly moving. It kept feeling. It continuously felt like there wasn't a point where the other movie that we watched, The Endless, while I enjoyed it, there were a couple times where I was like, what is this leading to?
Yeah.
But
with
this one,
yeah.
Yeah, with this one, I was hooked almost the entire time, so it was very nice to just be able to just be like, I mean, I didn't want to move. I watched this in a Culver's, and I didn't want to leave Culver's. The other movie, whenever I watched it, I moved to 3 different places just because I was like, all right, I'm getting bored.
Yeah.
But this one, I would just hooked on it the entire time inside the Culver's.
So Alex watches his things inside of fast food restaurants.
Right.
You get unlimited refills on your drinks. So.
Well, the other thing that I wrote down was that this is one I'm going to think about. You know how some movies, not only are they intriguing while you're watching them, but it gives you, you start thinking about, oh yeah, when that happened, that's what this was.
Yeah.
And I found myself doing that today, and I watched it yesterday.
I agree. So it's one of those that sticks with you.
Mm-hmm. I love movies like that. Mm-hmm. What was the name of that movie we watched last week?
Freaks.
Or no, the other one.
The party's just beginning.
Oh yeah. See, that movie didn't stick with you at all. Yeah.
Well, compares that to Freaks. I kind of want to compare it a bit to Freaks. Freaks is kind of it's got some sci-fi elements. It's got horror. It's got a few different things to it. It's very low budget as well. However, they got ambitions that they try to shoot for the stars, and it's like, and that was really where I'm like, okay, this could have been. Don't make that movie. Make Coherence, and I understand that some people can't, and some people don't have the talent to make Coherence. I don't know why this director, he's not really done much since then, but this is like, give this person a budget, or not, maybe not even that, just give him the ability to do some of these things, like, because like he did this, like you can't train stuff like that. This is a brilliantly paced movie. That's one of my 3. The pacing of this movie is extraordinary. And when you have actors that's sitting there improvising and doing all this to keep the train on track, where this is a 1.5 hour movie, there's no fat on the bone. It's completely straightforward. It tells the story. It doesn't lose the interest. Having to edit an improv movie and make it work and make the scenes work, like he has just the credit that has to go here. It's a single camera setup. These actors are improvising. Each scene is not exactly, each angle is not going to be exactly the same take. All these actors are talking over each other. Audio of that. It's a very small crew. This is, and then like all these people are doing different bits and doing different things. And it's not bits per se, but because it's not like a comedy movie. There are some comedy elements, but it's mostly dramatic and everything. And it's sci-fi and all that. And to keep the train on track is insane. Like that, this is a huge accomplishment. In a way that like I don't know if I've seen a no budget movie that has no script be able to do this. It's insane. It's insanely good. And it's insanely good that it's this good.
But you know, the interesting thing to me is when you look at Rotten Tomatoes and you see what the critics, you know, how they've scored a movie, and then you see the audience reaction to it, 9 out of 10 times, it's either the critics love the movie and the audience hates it, or vice versa. This one, they're scored pretty close together in that sense that the critics gave it an 88 and the audience gave it an 81. And I would have scored it an 81. It was a good movie. I enjoyed it, and it kept me, you know, engaged the entire time. And at my age, it's easy to nod off in a boring movie, let me tell you. Gray hair. Gray hair, yeah.
In 81, I thought you scored in a different type of score.
Great. So one thing that I wanted to sort of start doing is give awards to the best lines that I have, because each week I keep lines, but I don't say it. So last week I would have given the best line to Freaks. The best line in both those movies was in Freaks, in which the girl says, "I do have a mom. She's a ghost, and she's famous, and she lives in my closet." Greatest line of last week.
That is a good one.
And this one, there's a few ones that I wrote down, and they're all from Coherence. When the lights go out, one of them says, "I'm so glad I'm not high," was amazing. That was a great line.
It would have been better if it was, "I wish I was high."
And then this is also a hilarious one. That's just like an offhanded, like it's said from a person off camera, which fun fact about my humor, I love any time that the person's not on there's a joke in Ribbon that's my favorite joke where someone's not on camera and it's just sort of set off camera. But this is, you know, like I think she says that this isn't a good idea to split up or whatever, and this guy replies, "We're not splitting up. We're just going into 2 different groups." It's one of my favorite lines.
And then someone just kind of replies like, "Oh, okay."
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But that's such a friend group thing.
Yeah.
It is.
And that sort of humor, like, I mean, like, because it's said in a way that's like, he's like, I think knows that they're splitting up, or like, but it's like, or like he's not, or maybe not hearing it like himself of like why that is. You know, they obviously are splitting up. We're not splitting up. We're just going to 2 different groups. But I also liked just coherent, just the thematically, as far as what this thing was about. Such a powerful line that this had to be scripted, because it's kind of the whole point of the movie. Is at the very end, you know, this whole time we were worried about these other people being the bad versions of ourselves, and it was like, what if we're the dark versions of us? Was just a really powerful line. That sort of realization.
And I think she ended up being the dark version.
Yes,
Right.
and that's sort of the whole thing of the movie. It's like that there's this intense fear that there's this other group of them that's going to do all the bad things that they know's within them. Like everyone has these bad qualities within them, and they're like, that other person is probably out there being as bad as I know I could be. And what that ends up being is like all of them end up being the worst qualities of themselves, and that like we're the...
There was the one universe that she walks by and 2 people are literally taped with duct tape.
That's right.
Those might be a little worse. But
There are universes there where the worst of themselves actually came out.
Yes. So they were the two that's having that conversation at least is kind of both in their minds what's the worst that the other person can do. They were living that, which is the guy, he kind of went back into his alcoholism. Like I love how each of them had bits and each of them had character traits and flaws and everything for the most part. I didn't really get a grasp of the glasses lady, what her deal was, but everybody else, the glasses lady and Amir were the two that I'm like, these are the weakest characters as far as understanding. Everybody else, like, they had bits and they had things and they had arcs and they had flaws. They had ketamine. And I love that bit too. It's all naturalistic. She lists eight things and also ketamine. Yeah, that's great.
Anything else to say on this one?
Now, Diane, I have a question for you. Mm-hmm. Well, do you remember Halley's Comet when it passed?
Yes.
Talk about that.
Anything else? And Bob, and what's the other one? The Bob, what was it called? Oh, come on.
I don't know.
I can't believe you asked me that off the top of my head. Yes, I remember Halley's Comet.
Halley's Comet was in 86.
In 86, and then there was one after that. Bob. So when they hit Jupiter, come on.
I don't know.
Oh, Hale-Bopp.
Hale-Bopp.
It was in 1995. Yeah. Okay, so do you want my story about the Hale-Bopp comet?
Yes, this is what this is for. Diane's stories.
1995. Yeah, and I was working on a project that required me to fly to Denver and back. And so this is on my list. Everybody should have a list of the top 10 things you've experienced in your life. And you should keep that list going. You want to make sure you're updating all the time. So this one is on mine. It'll never come off because while I was flying to Denver from Dallas at 40,000 feet, the pilot came on and said, by the way, on the right-hand side of the plane, you will see the Hale-Bopp comet. Don't everybody go over there at once. Which I love that line. But anyway, so yeah, I opened up, my little, visor because I used to keep them down. And there it was.
Were you on the right side?
Unbelievable. Oh, yeah. I'm on the window seat at the bulkhead, right at the front of the plane. And there is no obstruction. There's no light, obviously, to take away from it. It was the most incredible thing I'd ever seen in my life. It was at night. So that helped too. So it was unbelievable how incredible that was. On my top 10 list, probably one or two, depends. Huh. But yeah, that was
I really
the
thought I thought you were going to go into a story about how like your phone or something started to like.
Yeah. And she saw another version of herself.
Before the days of your cell phone could crack.
She looked out the window and there was
electronic devices. Yeah.
She was looking out the window and it was her on another plane looking back at her.
Yes. Yeah. Looking back. Now there has been a time when we came that close to another plane and I thought, I wonder if that's me over there. But yeah, not this time. But no, it was incredible. Mm-hmm. Incredible. It's like pictures you see, of comets that,
next time there's a big comet going around, I'll book a flight.
That's a good idea.
It well worth the money, let me tell you. Mm-hmm. And now, because cameras are on phones, you can take pictures of it.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. That doesn't, because like there's some cheap flights out there now for like you can do like $100 round trip if you book like a cheap airline.
Just keep getting flights and getting different angles and shots of it. Just book flights back to back.
Actually, there's really only one angle. Only one. Because it's way up there, boys. You might be at 40,000 feet, but
maybe you get a Blue Origin flight to the atmosphere. Maybe that's what you do.
There you go.
I think if you ask the pilot if he can maybe like do a little barrel roll type thing, just like can you
do a barrel roll
for me?
Yeah, I wouldn't want to be part of that flight, but you guys. This is before the days that even the cockpits were locked. They weren't in.
Mm-hmm. So Diane could have won NAST for that. Hey, do a barrel roll.
Yeah, I could have. Well, once he said, "Don't everybody go over there all at the same time," we all knew that we probably didn't want to do that because you would end up in a barrel roll.
So
did people get up and like lean over? Did people end up doing that?
Oh yeah.
So people coming over to your window?
Because I was on the bulkhead, right at the front, so there's more space in front of me. Yeah, people came over and looked. I did not get out of my seat because I was afraid nobody would let me back in it. But yeah, they came over and leaned over me to look out.
That's so cool.
I would have. I mean, in a heartbeat, if somebody said, if I wasn't already on that side of the plane, and it was mesmerizing. I mean, you just couldn't take your eyes off of it. It was incredible.
That reminds me. This has nothing to do with the comet. It was probably just the sun. But I was on a flight one time, and I think I was flying into Chicago, and there was just like this ball of light, like outside my window, and I kept looking at it because I was like, "There's no way that's the sun." But is it the sun? And so I don't know. Maybe it was a UFO. It was probably the sun. But I just remember continuously looking at it.
Wait, so you didn't know where the sun was at in relation to where you were at?
No, I had no idea because I was like, "There's no way this thing is the sun," because it's like late. It's like later in the evening. And so I was like, is this the sun? It's also smaller than like what I imagined the sun would be, 40,000 feet in the air. So I was just absolutely baffled. So I don't know if anyone is like, "Have you ever seen an alien?" That's probably my alien story.
Were you on a plane?
Probably just the sun. Yeah, I was on a plane, and I just kept looking out and being like, "There's just a ball of light."
And this was at night. It was in the evening.
It was in the evening. Yeah, it was probably like 7:30 o'clock. 7:30, 8 o'clock.
Could have been the moon.
Well, that's what I was wondering too. But it was yellow, like the sun.
Well,
Diane, what happened when he was on the plane during this time? You have to come up with the answer.
Did your phone crack?
Not anything new, just the normal crack that I have.
I did like in the movie that no one was like, they immediately like, "You're crazy," which would be like whatever like any friends would be like. I mean, like it's just kind of like, no, when she's like, "My phone literally cracked while I was holding it," and they're like, "Did you drop it? Did you?" Like, and they're like, "No, I didn't," and they're like, "I don't know, I don't believe that," or they just immediately sort of write it off as like, "Oh, I guess like no." I don't think that happened.
She probably dropped it. She's just not telling us the truth.
Yeah, exactly. There's some information that's not being conveyed to us here.
She squeezed it too hard.
Yeah, could be any number of things. Okay, let's give our ratings of this movie. I guess we'll start with. I'll do mine first. I never do mine first. I'll do mine first this time as I get everything ready. I was thinking about giving this the ping pong paddle emoji. That would have been fun. But instead, I'm giving it this little shooting star comet thing. I think it's also the dizzy emoji. I really liked it. I want to give it a little star thing. I thought I really liked this movie. So it's a positive
emoji. The ping pong paddle would have been a callback, though.
Yes, it would have been. And that would have, yes. But I wanted to give it that little shooting star. It's also kind of dizzy, I think is what the actual name of it is, which it is. This is kind of a mind-bending movie, so it kind of makes you a little loopy at times. But I enjoyed it. One thing I didn't talk about, I'll mention it very briefly because I know we're probably going a little bit over this. I love the cutting to black. I thought that was a cool bit, that it would cut to black. I thought that was cool.
Yeah.
That was a cool little effect. I guess the director said there's some sort of reasoning for that, but it hasn't been really figured out yet. Okay. Diane, what are you going to give this?
I'm going to give it 4 of these.
4 of what? Just
of this drink. It's the one with the cherry in it.
Okay.
Can you see it? Oh, where are we at? There
You're going to give it 4.
Go up just a little bit.
4 of them. 4.
Oh, wow. That's pretty, that's close to what I gave it. I gave it 4.4 out of 6 stars.
4.4 out of 6 stars. Good. Well, for all you people watching our YouTube, either later or stream or whatever, you can see the visual parts of our thing. It's pretty great. For people watching our podcast later, you'll just have to know that we gave it the shooting star emoji. 4 of these. I have a little tropical drink emoji for Diane's thing.
Looks like a whiskey sour.
And then
That's what it looks like.
And then 4.4 out of 6 stars for Alex. I forgot your name, Alex. I'm so sorry. I don't know why that happened just then. For Alex. Great.
Which I that might not be as good of a score as I imagined whenever I came up with the score.
Yeah.
That seems a little low now that I'm doing the math in my head. Because oh well.
Yeah. Well, that's what's happened. It's so we take our scoring very seriously, as you can tell here. It's a real important thing. Okay, we're going to go to intermission now. Short 30-second intermission. Well, in this 30 seconds, please visit the concession stand and buy one of our many great concessions, and then come back and join us for our discussion of The Endless. Alex is going to tell us a bit about the plot of The Endless. So here we go.
Over my notes.
I go over your notes. Here is intermission.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's intermission time. All these delicious treats are waiting for you at the refreshment stand. Delicious fresh popcorn, ice-cold cola, and candy you know and love. They're all ready for you now, so you won't have to miss any of the feature. Come and get them.
And now, on with the show.
There you go, Alex.
Kind of fades. There's a weird distortion there. That's kind of fun. All right. So The Endless, my little recap of it is 2 brothers who escaped from a UFO death cult about a decade prior. Have just been living not too well. They're poor. Their car is about to get repoed. There's just not a lot going on, going well for them. One of the brothers gets a tape from the cult, and it seems like they're about to enter what's called ascension. And so they think, are they about to kill themselves? And one of the brothers wants to go back, and the other brother finally agrees. Fine, we'll go for a day. They get there, and as they're there, we learn a lot more about the brothers. We learn a lot more about this death cult. We learn that one of the brothers kind of lied a little. It wasn't so much of a death cult as they said it was. They kind of the older brother exaggerated a little bit. Everyone though is the same age as they were when they left. And as you go into it, you just learn a little bit more about how, why they are the way they are. And in the end, a little spoiler, they do go off happy, and, one brother learns to kind of let go and let his other brother make choices.
It's good. Good overview of the movie. I want to get off the top. Which one of these movies did you like better? Just so we do a comparison.
I think I liked Coherence a little bit better, just because I constantly felt engaged with Coherence. The Endless had a couple of slow spots, but I really enjoyed just the cast of The Endless, and just the 2 people. They're the producers and directors, but they're also the main stars, and they made other stuff, and they're like a good fun duo. And yes, I really
think that was important to note that the 2 brothers are played by the directors of the movie. Diane, which one did you like better of the 2?
Coherence.
Coherence, okay.
Definitely. Yeah, I was
I'm
kind of like Alex. There were slow parts to Endless. They could have gotten to the meat of that earlier. I would have loved more of the loop stuff, you
Yeah.
know. But yeah, it's waiting till the very last, act to do that was a little too late for me.
I agree.
And yes, I nodded off at one point at the beginning of the movie.
Oh,
See,
I know.
to me, the boring part was the endless barrage of these different vignettes of these of the loops. Like either that should have been the
Spoiler
movie.
alert.
Sorry, I guess we're gonna spoil this. Yeah. That to me was whenever it was like, oh my god, how many of these are we gonna do? And like it just and that was where I just was like, I was off. I was not even paying attention half the time with it. It was like it just was just this instant sort of like, well, we just kept going to these different ones, and it was like, okay, I get it. Why do we need like 4 of these things? I get what the point is.
That's what I enjoyed more about it. I liked the beginning, getting to know these different characters and being like, this is definitely kind of a cult, but like it's not nearly as bad as the brother made it out to be. Like it's definitely a little weird. And then just kind of, learning why they are the way, and then going and learning like they're in these different time loops. I enjoyed that part and being like, well, here's this time loop that's like a 3-second time loop. Here's a week-long time loop, which is, this movie is kind of a sequel to another movie. Like it's not a sequel directly, but it's like a
I don't know if you saw that, Diane, but there's this
Yeah,
is
I did.
Okay, yeah, and I kind of wish we would have maybe done both of those as our double feature. If I would have known that, we would have just
No
done one.
thanks.
Okay, great.
No, I did find the loops interesting, and they to me, the interesting part about the loops were the fact that these loops were within another loop.
Yes.
And that's what he could have done more of. In fact, let me ask you guys a question. Do you think these 2 boys are in a loop?
So I don't think so. So as soon as I finished the movie, I was like, what did I just watch? And I Googled it.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I enjoyed it. But like, I very much got.
But isn't that the little twist it ends on though? Is that perhaps that's the case that you don't know? Like that's the thing.
Yeah.
They certainly weren't in a loop before this movie, but that's clear because of how wide that bubble would have been, because they were obviously in the real world in the beginning of the movie. Which, boy, that was a slog too.
Yeah, see, that's the slog part. To me, the whole first part of it.
I liked the part where they get to the camp and they whenever the brother is forced to leave. When he's forced to leave, that's where the movie falls apart for me. And then at the very beginning, it was where it was like so exposition heavy. It's like we didn't need all that spelled out to us in that sort of like UFO death cult. My brother and I left. It was just like this exposition dump. Like we would have got it. You didn't have to say all that. But the part where they arrive and when the brother's asked to leave is the most interesting parts of the movie. And it's not even all that interesting, but it's to me it's the most interesting section of the movie.
I guess I probably am the one who enjoyed this movie the most out of the 3 of us. Like it was, I found it very, interesting. I definitely went into the movie, just based on like my Google rate of just like, what is this movie about? I very much thought that there were going to be like more alien type stuff.
Yes.
And I mean, it's like a god or it is an alien. But I genuinely thought this was going to be like a true leave the cult thing. And so it was not what I was expecting.
Yes. I assumed the same as you, that this was going to be from the sort of thing that's like, these are 2 people from a UFO death cult and they were sort of returning to it. And the fact that they're calling it a UFO death cult, boy, your mind goes in a bunch of different places, and it's like being called like it's a sci-fi horror. I don't know if there's too much horror involved, but that's what they call it, sci-fi horror. And I'm like, good. Like my mind's going in several different ways that this could be very, very interesting. And I was like, aliens. Let's do the aliens. I'm all here for cults and aliens. And it wanted to be a time travel movie, and I was just like, okay.
I thought it was a movie about 2 brothers and their relationship. Yeah.
See,
Okay.
I felt like it got to kind of like to because I agree with Diane. It is very much these two brothers in their relationship, and I do think they did that very well, and I want to talk a little more about that in a moment. But Cade, it felt like they were going that direction with the rope scene,
Yes.
with the guy and the magician throwing the baseball, and then like the ball not like taking a long time, and it was like, oh, this is leading somewhere interesting. And so
how does that make sense though? So what does that mean? What are those?
I don't know how the baseball, unless the alien god deity thing.
See, that's to me like I know that Coherence, even though I don't understand it, I know it's a competent movie that like the director understands it and like understands the complexity of it. I like that. I like that someone does it, and if I wanted to look into it and research it and understand it more, I could, and I could deeply watch it like 17,000 times and be finally like, okay, I understand this movie if I wanted to. I think that this movie is a little bit on the other end where it's just like, it's whatever. It's just what it's all about, what we're doing. And I wasn't a fan of what they were doing. So therefore it's like, it doesn't even have that to hold on to. Like if this movie had like a solid, it's like whatever, all the atmosphere and all that doesn't even matter. And all the science and all that stuff. And there's plot threads that don't make any sense. And the meat of the movie I enjoyed. I wouldn't have so much of a problem with this movie. But at the same time, I didn't like it, and I don't like that. To me, there's so many threads that does not make sense. And I don't know. And part of that's maybe it lost me. The movie lost me eventually, and so maybe there are some things that explain that stuff that I just wasn't interested in. But yes, so there's this entity, right, that's doing this.
Mm-hmm. Who has them in a time loop.
It has all these different people in a time. Why? There's no why, right? There's no.
The only thing that it says in the movie is that the alien loves watching them all die.
So it's okay. Okay. And that's a theory that's sort of proposed, right? Like that's like, yeah, and that, okay. Okay.
So the people at the camp, the part that you actually liked, where they go to the camp and
liked in comparison.
Yeah.
Liked.
So they are also in a loop. Do you think when these guys were young and they were there before, they were in a loop then?
So that's a big question that I have. Yes. That doesn't make sense to me as to why.
Because I feel like these people aren't allowed to leave their bubble. But the guy says he pulled them out of the mom's burning car. So did they crash just inside that bubble to the point where he could grab them? That's what confused me as well. Because it's like, how does this work? So they can't leave, but other people can come in. And if you die in the bubble, you have to stay in the bubble?
When they left, right, and they were driving down the road, they passed the memorial for the crash.
Mm-hmm.
And then they hit that object, I guess, what he called was a volcanic, remnant or whatever. Mm-hmm. So it was like that was the line. Mm-hmm. So when they crashed, the first time they were in the bubble when they crashed. And then
they crashed.
Yeah.
Well, so part of me thinks that they were in between, like they happened to escape before it reset. Like they got in right after it reset, and then they left before it reset. Is the way that I kind of understand it. Is that both?
Possible, but when that crash happened, it was when she crashed the car.
Mm-hmm.
That she had just crossed over into it.
Yes.
Because you could tell, because they made a point of showing that.
Well, she was on the outside of it, right? Wasn't she she was just on the outside of the bubble?
No, they made a point of showing, right, where that, I'm going to call it an antenna, but they made a point of showing where it was at in comparison to where the memorial was.
Yes.
And you notice whenever he looked at that picture, he goes, no, you drew this. Boy, this is held up really well. That's because it was inside the bubble.
Yes, you're right. Which now that confuses me because if she died in the bubble, shouldn't she be looping in the bubble?
Yeah, why is that crash happening in the bubble? Exactly.
That other guy who it shows who like kills himself with the gun, he's reset into that loop, even though because he's forced to kill himself.
But why was his body in the bubble while he was in the bubble? That was the other there were so many things of like, why was he, because most times when you reset and you would reappear and it just restarts it. It made no sense to why he would be hanging there and then he would be sitting, I'm not gonna think about a different guy, but yeah, there's just so many little things like that that's like, I just don't think that they knew what was going on there. And then also, okay, so there's these sticks, right, that sort of signify the edge of these bubbles. Yes. Did the monster put these sticks and that's what creates the bubbles, or were these markers that were someone put to sort of be like, this is a bubble?
That's why I thought they were antenna.
Oh, okay, they could be antenna. Yeah,
it's like antenna to me.
I feel like they grow there because of the bubble.
That's what I thought. Okay, so they grow there because of the bubble. See, for me, I was sort of thinking maybe they're creating the bubble or they're sustaining the bubble. So I was like, why wasn't it a theory to knock down these things? But if it is, they're just growing because of this sort of anomaly. That could be it.
Because some were bigger than others.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea is these are aliens.
Plus, there were the silver washers that were hanging from trees in different places.
Yeah.
I'm not sure exactly what those were for, but I don't know. All I know is that after I watched it, I went back to look at, the Rotten Tomatoes score, which is a 92 for this stupid movie. And then, of course, the audience scores in the 60s. But in reading some of these reviews, I have a feeling these people didn't really watch this movie.
I've heard a lot of people sit there and like they compared it to David Lynch. Someone, and that's in the thing, the page. Someone said this is like a mix between David Lynch and I don't know. There was a few people, and it was like you're comparing this movie to a David Lynch movie. No. Let's reel this in a little bit. I don't know what happened there. Part of me is like, I don't. Am I missing something? Because it's like it is not this.
I personally enjoyed it, but I do think there were just some small things that, like, if they would have, just like for continuity's sake, because there's no reason the guy's body should have been hanging there. It's like some people remember that they're in the time loop, and then some people don't realize they're in a time loop or something.
Yeah.
Which was confusing. But something I did enjoy is the chemistry between the brothers. I mean, they've obviously worked together for a long time. I felt like it was very much a fun banter between brothers. It felt relatively genuine at points. There were a few points where I was like, all right, well, that's a little fetched. But like, there was an obvious chemistry there, in my opinion. And I did feel like they got along well, and they were very much, I think they might have acted more like friends than brothers maybe, but I did enjoy that aspect of it.
I thought it was, I don't know, like it was like a forced sort of thing. Like they wrote these bits for them to do. Now these are actual bits. They're not like the last one I was talking about, bits of like they're doing like actual character stuff. These are like they're doing comedy bits as far as like trying to develop their characters. They're like, and they're not even related to the story. Oftentimes they're like doing little like, I don't even know how to explain it. They're doing like little like, I don't know, some sort of like little witticisms, but like real lowbrow. I don't know. I wasn't a fan of it. I wasn't even thought that was even all that great. I've seen better siblings on film.
Well, what's something you did like?
What's something I didn't like?
Diane. But yeah,
one of the critics said awkward hipster banter.
Yeah, like
yeah.
It's like them workshopping like stand-up routines of like things that they've like noticed about relationships and like, isn't like they did a lot of little like, I don't know, off-color sort of bits that were just like, I don't know, it's supposed to be trying to be a little edgy, I think, or something. I don't know what they were going for, but it's like I wasn't a fan of it.
Yeah, I don't recommend this movie at all. I have nothing good to say about it.
I have top 3 things. I initially put their bond, and then I put a question mark after it, and then I marked it out because I was like, never mind. The more and more I thought about it, I did not like it. So I was trying to come up with 3 things. I started to write. I don't know if I was trying to write science or science fiction, but I just put sci. and those are my two things on my top 3 list. Bond ? And then a mark through, and then Sci.
SCY.
That's a good one.
That's where SCI. Yeah, which I think halfway through saying the sci-fi or something's good of it, and then I was like, no, that's not even good. So I just stopped writing it.
Yeah. I thought if you can't say anything nice about this, then don't say anything at all.
I have my notes are. My very first note was the first few seconds of the movie. That I'm like, I don't like thematic quotes at the beginning of my movies. That you have what was it? Was it a H.G. Wells, Lovecraft? Some sort of quote, and I'm like, oh, come on. And then they have an unknown about it was said, friends tell secrets or something all the time, but siblings tell them on their deathbeds or some sort of stupid quote.
Oh, yeah, like, at the beginning of it. Yeah.
At the very beginning, like, if we're doing thematic quotes at the start of this movie, like it's like trying to say, like, oh, God, we didn't get one of our themes across. We got to put it at the top as some sort of, make it seem like it's profound in some sort of way. And so that was a note that I had at the very beginning. I'm like, don't do that. Don't. And it's like, just for the type of movie that this is, don't. This is a red box sci-fi movie that you see the poster and be like, wow, that is an incredible poster. What's that mean? There's 3 moons and there's a swirl and it's like, it's all this sci-fi. Okay, cool, I'll get it, and be like, well, I was duped. But you hope that the audience isn't so angry that they review bomb you. So that's what this movie is. It's fine. I watch it, maybe, I don't know, but I don't recommend it. I put the same TV set in the beginning whenever they were watching the video. That's the same TV set that is in my music video, Night Stalkers, for Crim, exact same TV set, which I was very happy about. And then I also did put that they at the very end, the rest of the movie's fine. Coherence does this great. So there's one thing that I hate, probably more than anything else in filmmaking, and it happens in big budget movies, and it happens in low budget movies. It is one of my biggest pet peeves, and this movie is good most of the time except for the very end. And that is, I hate day for night shooting. I hate it. I hate whenever they clearly shoot a thing in the daytime and they make it look like night. That's what day for night stands for. And so what they do is they color grade it to be incredibly blue, and they try to make it look like this is at nighttime. And this is them when they're driving their car to the bubble. And I'm like, there's got to be some sort of reason for this. And it's like, it's because there's going to be a transition to the daytime. I assumed it was going to be in camera. It was going to be a shot of them driving, and it was going to transition hard into the daylight. And so I assumed that's what was going to sort of happen, but that's not even how that's edited. So they should have made that at night. Night for night, always. Never make a night shoot in the daytime. I don't know why they did it. It bothered me. And most of the time, this movie, the night scenes take place at night. It was the one time, and it's the very end of your movie. It's your climax of your movie, and you do a day for night. Coherence is all nighttime shoots. It becomes apparent, and there's big movies that do that, and it is my biggest pet peeve because it's so clear that that's the case for me. Also important to note, I wanted to say this was not intentional, but the directors of this movie, they are directing the next episode of Moon Knight on Netflix or on Marvel's on Disney Plus, the new Moon Knight show. They're doing episodes 2 and 4. The next episode's 2, and it comes out this week.
They're directing, not writing.
They're not writing. They're directing the next episode of Moon Knight. So if everyone's watching Moon Knight,
I'm okay with that. Because if there was any, their cinematography was, yeah,
I'm sure they're going to have like a I don't know. Okay. Any other notes, Alex? I know you like this, so tell me what you liked about this.
Well, I like happy endings, and it seemed to have like a happy ending. because they made it out just in time, which is a little cheesy, but it did have a happy ending. I'm a
Well,
big fan of
so
happy
doesn't
ending.
it kind of like it leaves a question mark, right? Like with the looking out and there's the birds, and that's sort of supposed to hint at something.
Apparently they I read something online that no, this is a happy ending. That is correct.
Okay.
Okay.
So when they ran into it themselves as they were leaving, they weren't looping.
No, apparently.
Okay.
Which that's also weird because there was no
Was
so sometimes there's a reflection, like there's that whole scene where they're like that. There's sometimes a reflection.
I didn't get that part.
And then sometimes there's not a reflection because you see whenever he's talking, there's just a few. I didn't like the scenes where he goes to all of these different loops. They didn't seem to make any, like they added more confusion to the internal logic of this movie than anything else. Because like when he's sitting with the guy who killed himself, who's now sitting, who he's talking to, he walks through that reflection. And so how does that work? What happens whenever, because you can't leave it. He disappears. For one thing, he doesn't see a reflection, which sometimes you do. I don't know. There was just a lot. It brought up a lot of things. That's just like this made it much more confusing than what it needed to be.
I also wrote.
Sorry, this is Alex like segment. Sorry.
I like that there's like a connection to another movie. That there's there's a bigger lore here. I think that's kind of cool to have like stuff there. I've never seen the other movie, but I like the fact that the other movie that they made, they brought in the two characters from that, and did like a 10-minute scene with them, and so I thought that's cool. And then the other thing, I kind of thought the visuals were cool with the birds, with the bubbles that you see. I thought it was shot like I thought it was well shot, and I thought the visuals were cool, and just like there were obviously like symbolisms that they wanted here, with the antennas, as Diane called it, and the birds, and
yeah.
But
I like the guy. So there's the guy in the tent that was in like a very short, was it 10 second, maybe even less than that, 5-second loop or something.
Yeah, like a 5-second loop.
He was like supposed to be like old, like the olden days, right? Wasn't that the sort of idea?
Which that confused me.
Because everybody else seems like they're in modern era.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, and so that was like, okay, so this dates back to old times, which that would have been interesting if you would have had these different loops of these people in different eras. Oh boy. Oh boy, I about clicked add to broadcast.
I think you.
Man. Well, good for them.
Yeah.
We're getting banned. We're banning some people. So they're that was a bot, but they did subscribe to my thing for
Good for them.
So that's good. Good for them. It would have been a lot more interesting if there had been different time periods. Like that would have been cool to me. That was. But so there's something at play there. We're supposed to be wrapping this up, but the idea that there's these photographs and there's this old technology, like there's that. I don't think I quite understood what they were going for with that. So the monster can take photographs?
Well, yeah, that's how they described it. Is this how he communicates with us? He leaves a cassette tape or a beta tape, in a toolbox, and that was all. I'm sorry, you guys, but this is a terrible film.
Well, that's like, I guess, a hipster thing. Bringing back the old technology.
The more we talk about it, the more I'm like, okay, maybe it wasn't as good as I thought it was.
It's a terrible movie. I give it one beer.
One beer.
Because they sold beer.
They did, which is also confusing.
Right.
Brings up, so they had to go to towns, right? Because she talks about going to thrift shops, right?
Yes. But yes, they do. You're right.
And they talk about how they sell beer. And this is the fact that he went out and talked bad about this has caused their sales to go down. He talks about that. So how, if they are living in a bubble in which time loops, how are they able to leave the bubble, and how are they able to then tell that this is affecting them in some sort of way?
All that happened before the monster took over and put him in a loop.
Exactly, which makes me, that's what my initial theory, that's what my theory is that the loop started relatively recently. However, it couldn't have started relatively recently because they're the same age as when they left.
Well, it's like a 10-year loop, is what I read online. Is that it's a 10-year loop.
But that still doesn't explain how they are living the effects that they have. Unless there's some people that can leave. Unless these people haven't experienced, but that still wouldn't make sense. So like, because I was thinking maybe the woman hasn't experienced this sort of thing yet, but she's still the same age. I would get the feeling that maybe the old man has aged. Like he's the one who sells the beer. He leaves the place and he doesn't age, but then he of course does reset at the end of the thing. But I thought that would have been a cool thing, that the old man left and he was the only person that was the intermediary between this cult and the real world. He went out and sold.
And maybe why they had that scene where he had the big lock, and he unlocked it so that the guys could see what was in that room, which was all videos. And
so he leaves and goes back and forth. Maybe that's good. But I feel like he was a part of the circle that reset, wasn't he? I don't know. I wasn't paying attention.
I don't know either. And yes, and like I said, one beer just because.
I'm going to lower my score then.
No, Alex, don't let us talk you out of what you think. You stick to your guns.
I want to drop it by 1. I'm going to give it 3 out of 5.8 stars.
Okay. That's still pretty high. It's over. Well, no, it's nearly half. I forgot that this was 5.8.
So it's like a 55 or something.
49 or something.
40, yeah.
Oh no, it's over half. Sorry, you're right. It's like 52.
Yeah, it's slightly over half.
I'm giving this the hourglass emoji because time, and it's about as enjoyable as watching sand fall in an hourglass. I would have just as much fun. Which is
so. It's got 2.5 stars out of 5 on my TV app. What is this app? This is for like all the movies you could ever hope to see.
Okay.
Yeah. So which would be 65% on. Yeah.
Well, it's also interesting is like how Rotten Tomatoes rates things is like it could be kind of a negative review, but because it really bases on if people give it it's like all the people giving it like a thumbs up versus a thumbs down. It's like if someone gave it like
1, 2, 3 or 5, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So if people give it 3s.
Well, no, because it's different than like some other things where other things are an aggregate where they're like everyone, if you rank it out of 5, it just averages it. So there's ones that are averaging. Like I think Metacritic is an average. Obviously, IMDb user thing is where anyone can do that, but that's an average. Rotten Tomatoes is over. I think it's like over a 2.5 or something. I think it's somewhere around there where it's like if it's just slightly positive, it counts it as a positive review. Whereas it has to be kind of so like there is a line. So it's like it's just the percentage of people that's given it a positive review. Is what Rotten Tomatoes is. So it can be like they do have an average thing, but it's kind of hidden. But they do have like where on Rotten Tomatoes what the average thing is out of 5. And so you can have movies that have a 90%, but it has a lower average than movies that have a 70%.
So yeah, the tomato meter is 92, but the audience score is 67.
Yeah, well, yeah, but there is a out of 5 if they average it, but it's kind of it's hidden. It's not. It's kind of hard to sort of tell. Okay, we're heading into our last segment where it's called Preview Time, in which we preview next week's movies. We will select our movies for next week, and we'll see what we have going here. Should be fun. Let's see. So here's our graphic for Preview Time.
Now, preview time. When it comes to entertainment, you can't beat a good film. So let's take a look at what's coming your way.
Okay, so we're going to describe, I've said it already at top, we're going to pick our next week's movies.
Can we do the third one?
What? What?
The third one.
The third one. Oh, yeah. We mean a third movie?
Yeah, the third movie.
Oh, no. Okay. So, Diane.
5.
5. She's picking. You had to pick out of 120, but we had to pick. Diane's picking hers first. Okay.
5.
Our movie is. Are you ready? It is
Ready?
American Animals. American
God.
Animals.
If this is a frat movie, I'm not watching it. Okay.
American Animals. On my thing, it says it is on Amazon, but it's. Let's see here. It's on Tubi for free. We got another Tubi movie. That's fun.
Uh-oh.
Yes, it is.
I don't know if Diane will like it, though.
It's let's see, it's also on Netflix.
I don't see it on Netflix.
Well, I'm just telling you where
Oh.
it's on. That's all. It's
Okay.
got 3 stars.
It's a crime drama.
It follows 4 college friends who plan a heist of their library.
Okie dokie.
So this is a movie that Evan Peters is in it, but the idea is that it's a blend of documentary and film. So it's like there's the real people that were involved is like telling the story, but then they have a lot of elements of real. Evan Peters. There's acting.
Yeah.
There's a whole. So yeah, it's a blend.
2 weeks ago, you, Cade, Diane, and Kenna did a movie that was based on a true story, I believe, that you all were huge fans of, with Emma Watson in it.
A crime, yeah, a true crime movie. You're right. Well, I must say this has. I'm going to make a statement now. There's no way this is worse than the Bling Ring. There's no way this movie could be worse. And if I'm wrong, I'll just cry the full podcast next week.
I mean, it has an 88 on Rotten, 7 on IMDb, and 68 on Metacritic.
Okay, Alex, you're not on next week, but you will go ahead and select our 1 out of 20.
Let's go with. What if I choose 5 as well?
It's a different list, so you can choose whatever you want.
Let's do number 3 because 3 is my favorite number.
Okay, it is Enemy. I've been hearing so many things about this, and I'm very happy that this is going to be our movie.
From 2013.
2013, Jake Gyllenhaal, which I know Diane's a fan of Jake Gyllenhaal, right, Diane?
He could do a good movie.
And it's Denis Villeneuve, who, from Sicario, from your favorite movie, you love Arrival. It's the guy who directed all those Prisoners and the Dune. So he directed a lot of things. So it's sort of
not as highly rated as.
How could I have not seen this?
Yeah, he made it the same year as Prisoners, but it was before Sicario and Arrival and Blade Runner. He also did Blade Runner 2049.
Uh-oh. Big trouble going on out there, huh? Go get him, buddy. Go get him. Go tell him. It's not in your yard. Okay.
Yeah.
Good. I'm excited about this one.
Okay. I don't know what that one's on, but we will.
I like them.
It looks like it is on Hulu if you have a premium subscription.
Typically that's some sort of. It looks like it's a Showtime add-on. So. It's when they say premium subscription, it's some sort of add-on, and so it's a Showtime movie, which works in my favor because I have Showtime. But Some I know that other people don't on our group, but yes.
Yes, it is on Showtime. It's also on Spectrum.
I think all those are the premium add-on of Showtime.
It's on YouTube TV.
Yes, you can buy it any of the places. I've heard
And
extremely
Amazon,
good extremely good things about this movie.
Okay.
So that is exciting, and I've seen a lot of Denis Villeneuve stuff, and Jake Gyllenhaal's great.
You're welcome.
So yeah, thank you. Sorry, I didn't thank you for saying that.
Taylor Swift fans may not like this one though.
Oh yeah, all of our Swifties.
Oh yeah, that's right. I forgot about that part.
Everyone, Diane will be sure to wear our red scarves.
Red scarves.
That's what he took from her, whatever. Or he
it was a red. I can't keep up. I just cannot keep up.
Yeah, it's a lot of stuff.
I think the only movie of his that I didn't really care for was the Aladdin one. You know which one I'm talking about?
The Aladdin. You mean Jake Gyllenhaal is what we're talking about?
Yeah.
He was Prince of Persia. Is that what you're talking about?
That's it.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my gosh, what a horrible movie.
Yeah, he was. I mean, Nightcrawler is his best, I think. Nightcrawler.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
And I really liked his performance in I know a lot of people see this, but a lot of people didn't like it. But I love Velvet Buzzsaw a lot, which was his follow-up, the director's follow-up to Nightcrawler, which people were like, "What? This is your movie after Nightcrawler?"
You're the one who recommended, and I watched that. It was so good, unexpected.
Yes,
Jake Gyllenhaal.
It's unexpected. It's like he goes into these movies, and you're like, "That's Jake Gyllenhaal." Like you just assume that's who he is, but then you compare like Nightcrawler versus Velvet Buzzsaw versus like Donnie Darko or whatever. You think he plays him so naturally that you just assume that's what he's like, but they're very different characters, and like so he's just that effortless of an actor. But Velvet Buzzsaw, if we're recommending things, I love that movie so much. It's a horror movie. It's on Netflix. It's a Netflix movie. It is a horror movie that takes place in the modern art world, and it's great. It's great.
It is great. It's a great movie. One of his that I know got panned probably, it was Source Code. And I kind of love that movie. It's a little romance. Source Code. It's got a 92. Who knew that? But yeah, I liked it. It was a good one.
Yeah, no,
that's a sci-fi movie.
There's some other big one that I'm missing that people really liked of his, but yeah, he's really great. Okay, well that's exciting stuff. Anything else you guys want to plug here at the end of this thing? As we're
I do have something to plug.
Oh, you do, Alex?
Yeah, there's this podcast that I'm in that's releasing April 6th.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
What's the podcast name? Is your name in the thing?
My name is in it, but it's subtly in it.
Oh, okay.
You have to really read into it. It's called Cade and Friends, and you can catch it on YouTube and other locations that you do podcasts. Mm-hmm. But the A in Cade stands for Alex.
Okay, great. Yeah, perfect.
Yeah,
good. That's good. I'm glad. And then soon, when we get Diane on there, the D in Cade can stand for Diane. Yes. We'll just have to. We'll just have to come up with a friend who has an E name.
Yeah. So I'm sure we can figure something out.
Yeah. Yeah, this was fun. You can see maybe Alex and I have some banter. Right? Do you think so, Diane? Being an outside person in this?
I watched your trailer. I thought it was hilarious. I wish that there was a behind the scenes video of you guys on your cookie search for the Girl Scout cookies. Mm-hmm. First off, I have to ask, where did you get the idea? And then how did you get it? How did you decide where to go?
Well, as all good smugglers, we needed to figure out the shortest distance to smuggle across state lines. So, we thought about, Miami, Oklahoma, but it wasn't a safe smuggling location.
Certainly wasn't because they didn't have any open during that time. So it was, we were kept seeing these things about it that they were starting, and when we were in Joplin, there wasn't any in Joplin that was open while we were there, because we were in Joplin.
That's a story.
That's the Joplin story. That would have been a good behind the scenes documentary, is the Joplin experience. So we weren't able to get any in Joplin.
Did you make it to White Castle?
No, we didn't. There's not one in Joplin.
There's not? Okay.
There's one. I think so. I had to go all the way to St. Louis.
You know,
I did go to a White Castle.
I may lose sponsorships here, but I've had White Castle.
I forced Alex to go to a White Castle.
He did, and it was not that great.
It was, yeah. I have since had White Castle, and I'm like, oh no, it's not what I thought it would be, or everything. We did so. I mean, Joplin has a few things that we don't have here in Tulsa. They have a Fuzzy's Tacos, which we need here in Tulsa. There's one in Oklahoma City. There's one in Joplin. I don't know why they haven't connected put one in Tulsa. I'm sure it could be any moment, but I do like Fuzzies a lot, and there's a few things. I'm trying to think. Where was they still got their Johnny Carinos, I saw, which we don't have ours anymore. We used to have two. That's not important, but there's a few things. There was something else. What was it? Oh, they had a Moe's. I had Moe's while Alex was sick.
I was dying.
As Alex was dying, I went to Moe's South. It's kind of it's similar to Chipotle or Qdoba or something around here, and it wasn't. I didn't find it all that great.
Yeah. I think if Fuzzy's is... Oh, go ahead.
I was going to ask Alex if he had been to Skyline Chili, since he's up there. Skyline Chili territory.
The actual Skyline Chili. I've had like Skyline Chili from a can, but I have not had actual like Skyline Chili. Like, I don't want to make the hour or 2 hour drive just to get like this chili.
There's not any in Sandusky?
No, the closest one I think is like an hour away. And so it's a bit of a drive just to get it.
But you go over to where you go to? Is it where you're saying that's at? Is that Cincinnati, Columbus?
Yeah.
You go to Columbus often, don't you?
I used to. Not so much right now, but I that will probably happen again in the coming months. But yeah, I did go to Columbus like once a month probably.
So next time you're with people, just make the decision you're going to Skyline Chili. Just make that decision.
I worked in Columbus on and off for 3 or 4 years. I had an apartment up there even. And Skyline Chili's 3-way is pretty damn good.
There you go.
Their hot dogs are good too. They do a Tony.
I've heard really good things about it. It's just like I've been told that like Skyline Chili proper is a lot better than just like the Skyline Chili in a can that I've had.
Well, I would imagine.
So, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm trying to find. There's a place that I can't remember if it's Fuzzy's or if it's not Fuzzy's that I would go to all the time. Surely it was Fuzzy's.
In Ohio?
No, in Missouri, just somewhere in Missouri. Whenever I was driving a lot, there's a place in St. Louis.
We had Fuzzies a lot, Alex and I, when we went to our theater festival down in Abilene, and that's where I've sort of learned to love that, because we were staying right next to a Fuzzies, so I had Fuzzies quite a bit, and it's pretty great. And I've since had it when I went to Oklahoma City a few different times. I really like Fuzzies a lot, and I like that they have, and I'll use any platform that I have to convince any restaurant to do this. They have all-day breakfast, and every restaurant in America should have all-day breakfast.
It is Fuzzies I would go to. Yes, I love Fuzzies. I just wanted to make sure before I proclaimed my love for it. It is.
Yeah. Well, that's great. Speaking of that, last week when Diane and I went to trivia, they didn't have, their kitchen was closed because they were understaffed, and we had to get DoorDash, okay, delivered to us. We had a Mediterranean place, and it was great. Later, I got a Sorry.
What was the name of that place?
Saffron.
It was really good.
It was really good. We had gyros, and it was really good. My point of my story, though, I got a notification on there that was like rate the driver or whatever. I don't use DoorDash all that often, really at all, because I don't like how everything's so priced up and everything. Like there's like every item is more than what it is, and then there's like so many charges and so many things, and it's just like I'll just go get it myself. Especially now when every place has curbside, it's just easier just to get things myself.
Well, and you live close to a lot of really good restaurants.
Yes, yeah. So, anyways, I said, rate your driver if they did a great job and all that. So I'm like, okay, sure, I'll go in there and I'll rate the driver, and I do that, and I gave that person a great review. Anyways, point is, I'm back in the app, and I get in the app, and I'm like, oh, I'm just going to see what food's around there. So just like recommendations for places to eat and all that. And there was a section on seafood, and anyone knows me, I love seafood, I love shrimp, and I love crab and all. I just love crustaceans, seafood in general. But but there was a place I had never heard of, and it was called Hootie's Bait and Tackle. And I'm like, oh, that's interesting. And I'm like, they had crab legs, never heard of it, anything. And I click on it. I'm like, what is this? They have pictures of crab legs and all this shrimp and all this stuff. Turns out that is Hooters. That is Hooters.
What?
And it's like, and it was in, and I'm like, what does that mean? Did they change their name? And so I went into this huge deep dive, and I'm so glad I have a platform to share this sort of stuff that I learned on. And that is, because otherwise I would have just learned this information and it wouldn't have went anywhere, because I do these deep dives on things all the time. But apparently during the pandemic, Hooters decided to pivot their strategy, and there's like all this write-up in it and like some sort of financial thing that they are like, and it's like their CEO was talking, they're like, yes, we are going to we have started this new strategy of these virtual restaurants where we are rebranding virtually on these things like DoorDash and Uber Eats and all this stuff, as where we have menu items that are only available virtually. And Hooters is going to be just a kitchen that makes all of these different types of foods that's just for people who order via these things. And so they have a Hootie's Bait and Tackle, Hootie's Chicken Tenders, Hootie's Burger Bar, and it's just it's the kitchen of Hooters, but it's a virtual restaurant, and apparently it's paid off for them.
Wow.
So it kind of makes sense. I mean, especially in the area of town where you live in, because it's a high density residential kind of area.
Yeah,
kind of makes sense. Anywhere you have apartment buildings and my gosh, yeah.
And
it's a good idea.
And it's kind of distances themselves from, the brand crisis that Hooters and restaurants like it is currently having. And it kind of makes it, I don't know. If it's working for them, I guess that's good. That was a shock to me that is happening, and that more people haven't talked, because it was like one article and it was like buried, and I'm like, this is a big deal. And apparently they've done it in all the markets that Hooters is in. And that's fascinating. And I don't know of any other restaurants that are doing that. I don't think any other restaurants have to do that though, because Hooters has to adapt or die. And so this was an interesting way of them like using the pandemic and figuring out a way to do it, to really pivot interestingly. That was an interesting idea.
Wow.
I don't know
Such
if the
a
food's
great
good.
idea, and so much cheaper than some of the benefits that they offer their waitresses. You think I'm joking, but I'm not.
Yeah, no, I don't. I mean, I guess some people might or have already known this. Maybe the big Hooters fans may have already known that Hooters did this pivot. I've never been to a Hooters, so I don't know. Is their food good?
I've been many times in Columbus, Ohio, and Tampa, and several places, because I worked with men, and they like to go to lunch at Hooters a lot. So I've been to Hooters a lot. Their wings are incredible. You know,
Oh, okay.
they're bone-on wings, and they have levels of heat that I can't even approach. It's really, really hot, but it's bar food.
Yeah.
It sounds like next time I'm in Tulsa, we got to go to the three of us. Diane's going to have to take us to Hooters.
I'll take you to Hooters. Well, there's one in Columbus. I don't know if there's any up near you or not.
I'm sure there's one in Cleveland because Cleveland is close.
I'm sure.
But
I can't believe
don't
you
think
guys
I've
have
ever
not
been
been
to
to Hooters.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That just never seemed
gotta
appropriate. I just
It's
never.
I don't know. It's not that big of a deal. But then again, I wouldn't think it would be, would I? You know?
Well, it seems like that would be inappropriate to take coworkers to. That seems like that's a group that would not be. Maybe I guess in the era it was a different time, but.
Well, I don't know. You know, maybe I did retire 7 years ago, but yeah, we would go to lunch there all the time. Sometimes after for drinks, that kind of stuff. It's not like it's a strip club or anything like that. You know.
Yeah. No.
It's just incredibly hot waitresses that are really small.
I just
that obviously
Ava,
don't eat there.
I just want to know if Ava in the comments has any thoughts about Hooters because she talked about White Castle, and I want
back with White Castle we had.
I don't know if Ava has been to Hooters or not. Yeah, I don't know. We've never been there. We did go to when we were together one time. We were doing some tours of some casinos, and we stopped and ate at an IHOP. And at the table next to us were some girls that worked at Hooters, and they were talking about how, you know, Hooters, as part of their benefit package, would provide certain surgeries to make them more, appropriate.
They would provide them?
Yeah, they would pay for, you know.
Yeah. I got it. Yeah.
Wow.
But yeah,
interesting.
I don't know if Ava remembers that night or not. It was late. But yeah, we hit a lot of IHOPs on that tour. But anyway,
I've been to a lot of IHOPs at late at night. Being a
late at night IHOP.
Being a theater kid, that's your go-to spot after your premiere night. It's going to IHOP and doing that. That's some of the best. Ava said, never been.
He says he's never been to Hooters. Yeah, she probably hasn't.
IHOPs are great.
I can't imagine.
Well, Diane, you have a new mission, I guess.
To take you guys to Hooters? I think you won't be impressed. I mean, you might be. I don't know. What can I say?
Yeah. It's.
Yes, there is one in Cleveland.
There you go.
Yeah,
well, I'm sure there's also Skyline in Cleveland. Isn't that closer to?
I don't know. I just know like someone said that they drove an hour for chili from where we live, and so, yeah.
Okay, great.
Skyline chili is pretty popular. That's one of the first places I ate whenever I went to work in Ohio.
It's one of those regional fast foods that that it's always on the list of what's the best regional fast food places. Skyline Chili's always up there, and I'll tell you the best fast food place regional fast food place that I've tried that's not around here. I love, and this was on my trip to Georgia when we for Laura. It was Bojangles. Bojangles is amazing, and it deserves all of its things, its praise.
There's a place called Lee's Chicken here in Ohio, and maybe a couple, like another state or two. It's really good as well. It has very good chicken.
That's good. Well, cool. And always
Waffle
a mission.
House.
Yeah,
it's not so great.
Was it Max and Irma's? That was one of the chains up there. The thing I learned about working in Columbus, Ohio, is it is like one of those centers that where fast foods are trial tested. You know, fast food joints are like Raising Cane's. You know, they're like.
You know what I learned about Raising Cane's? It's the same company as Panda Express.
But yeah, all of those are owned by Yum Brands, aren't
Well,
they?
they're not, but Yum Brands owns a lot of them. Yes, Yum owns KFC, Taco Bell.
Well, Arby's owns a lot of different brands as well.
Yes, we talked about this. This might be previewing one of our things on our podcast. Did we talk about this on our podcast? I feel like we did. We definitely talked about it later, but it might have been on Adrian's episode. I think we might have talked about this, but
that would make sense.
Arby's did this whole amazing buyout of these things. Like whoever was behind this was amazing, because they went and they grabbed one, and then they grabbed another, and then they became so large that they were able to own all it, because they own Sonic now. They own tons of these things that you would have.
Buffalo Wild Wings. Wow.
Yeah. Yep. And this all happened relatively recently. This all happened like within, I would say, like 7 years, 5 years. It's somewhere around there.
Really?
That's like that they have consolidated and become like one of the largest ones, and it was like one at a time. And on its own, you wouldn't have ever thought that Arby's could have bought all of these things, because it wouldn't have been able to on its own without just doing this mass play of where they bought all of these big chains. Yes.
That's why I love Arby's. I am an Arby's fan.
Alex, was that your first job? Or
Arby's was my first job. I'm a big Arby's fan.
So Ava says Poochie's in the Chicago area, but I looked it up, and Ava, there's one in Alameda, Ohio. Alameda, I'm not saying that right at all, but there is one in Ohio.
Yeah. Ooh. So
Poochie's. I wonder
if it's the same one. So Ava ranked IHOP, Denny's, Waffle House. IHOP being 1, Denny's being 2, third being Waffle House. I don't know if there's any other ones to add to that list. Is there any other breakfast places that are open?
What's that? Bob Evans?
Bob Evans. Bob Evans seems to be more like dinner focused, right? I've always thought it wasn't as breakfast focused.
I would have thought breakfast, but I don't think they're 24/7.
Yeah, so these are 24/7. Some Waffle Houses aren't 24/7, aren't they? I've seen some Waffle Houses that close, but
I thought they all were 24/7.
Maybe they are. Is there any other 24/7 breakfast?
Shoney's used to be 24/7. Shoney's.
Mm-hmm. I feel like I'm missing. There's another big one. But I think ranking those, I like Waffle House, but you also kind of have to know what level it's on. I like the
you
Waffle.
have to know which Waffle House you're walking into.
But I like that Waffle House knows what it is. True. Like there's no hiding what Waffle House is. Like I think sometimes some Denny's thinks they're better than what they are, and then like they're not.
Yeah.
I think that Denny's. Yeah.
Where is a Denny's? Is there a Denny's?
There is a Denny's. There's one, and it's part of a truck stop.
Oh, okay.
That's the only one.
We should go there. I have not been to Denny's since I lived in Texas.
Yeah, we should go there.
Yeah. Cade and I found a great truck stop somewhere between here and Miami, Oklahoma.
It's a big cabin.
Had a really good breakfast. Yeah.
Alex is out from that. He's from that area, so he's probably been to that truck stop in Big Cabin.
Yep, I know which one you're talking about.
We went there late one night after a play, and it was Diane, Jennifer, and I. Jennifer, a big fan of ours. We'll name drop her here. It was great. For what it was.
I don't normally get waffles, not waffles, but pancakes. I'm not a big pancake fan. Oh my gosh, the pancakes are amazing.
Yeah. So if you ever find yourself in Big Cabin, Oklahoma.
There's a truck stop. Have no idea what it's called, but it's really big, so you can't miss it.
Yeah,
it's the only one.
You can't miss the giant culturally insensitive Native American on the side of the road.
Exactly, which is pretty common in Oklahoma.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. I'm sure that they'll claim some sort of Cherokee descent, and that makes it okay for them.
Yeah, that's what the governor does.
That's what the governor. Yep, that's very true. Did you see him on Tucker Carlson? Without not getting political on that, no. He appeared on Tucker Carlson this week.
The Cherokee Nation made a tweet about it as well.
Yes, it was the whole thing. Which Diane used to be friends with the chief on Twitter,
I am still friends with the chief on Twitter. I am. I think, probably what it got to him was when he said that people were running, 23andMe test in the pen to get out.
Yes, that's what he said in that, yeah.
No, that just because you have some Indian blood does not make you part of a tribe.
Well,
you would think he would know that of all people.
Well, he does. He does, and that's where it becomes he's blatantly lying, like he's purposefully like distorting the truth, and that's where it's like it's not like you can sit there and make an argument and say these things and be fact based and like do that, but him and people like him don't do that. They'd a lot rather go to an extreme and make up a fake scenario in which that's just not even remotely true, just because it's the most exaggerated thing. And like, you can't argue against people who just so boldly say something that is so inaccurate, it's unreal.
Yeah, I think I heard yesterday that it wasn't Obama that got Osama bin Laden. It was someone else. I was like, God, you just blatantly said that, and people are believing you. That's strange. Yeah. Okay, well.
Anyway. Sorry. Yeah. Anyways, our movies. Those were great.
I thought the Cherokee Nation's tweet was appropriate and was really in good taste.
And if you ever want, Diane would be great for your political podcast. Anyone who's out there wants to do a political podcast, bring Diane on there to do that.
That's just what you need, a boomer. You need a boomer. You need a crazy liberal boomer on your podcast.
Great. What was our 2 movies we're watching next week? We're watching American Animals, which is for free on Tubi, and Enemy, which is on Showtime, but you can, of course, rent that on any of the platforms you rent movies.
I can't believe that I haven't seen Enemy.
Yeah.
I just can't. I wonder if I have. Oh, well.
Okay. Great. We'll see. I don't know exactly who's on, but I think I know, but we'll see. Whoever's our 3 people next week or whatever, we'll see. This Wednesday
next week.
Won't be Alex next week, but this week though, Wednesday, watch Cade and Friends podcast. We do have a lot of fun. There's a lot of great bits. There's great conversation. We have we dive deep into the lore of Where's Waldo. So if you want to know about that, we talk about that. We talk about our childhood fears, which ends up being related to the pandemic before the pandemic even happened. And because we both, Alex and I, have some germophobia that we worked through live on there. So a lot of fun little bits and stuff, and it should be fun. And every other Wednesday that will be released starting this Wednesday. But you can join Double Feature Movie Club weekly. You can watch a live stream, 6 p.m. Central Time on the Cade Thomas YouTube channel. Thank you for everyone who joined in live for this. And then you can watch it anytime afterwards. The stream's archived onto the YouTube channel, or you can watch it as a podcast anywhere you get your podcast stuff at.
Thank you to everyone who watched us instead of the Grammys.
Oh, is the Grammys tonight?
The Grammys are tonight.
Well,
I'm recording it. Okay.
Because we did the Oscars. We did over the Oscars last week. We didn't talk about the thing.
I know that as soon as the podcast was over, I ran in and turned on the Oscars, and it was right before the slap. And then the first thing after it happened, of course, I go out and I find a Chinese version of it where you can hear everything that's been blanked out, right?
Yeah.
Sent it to Cade and said, "This wasn't staged, was it?" Yeah.
That was a thing that we lived for a week, guys. That whole conversation. Yeah. I think I
wonder if something like that happened at the Grammys.
They're gonna make some reference to it, right? So somewhere.
Yeah.
They have to.
They have to. That's great.
Oh wait, hang on. The Grammys only started 20 minutes ago.
Oh, okay.
Right. We're not gonna miss much.
All right.
There won't be any slapping going on yet.
Yeah. Yes. Great. Okay. Great. Well, thank you, everyone. We'll see you next week. Right here, Double Feature Movie Club. Bye.
Great.
Everyone, wave.
Bye. Bye. Bye.